We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are conducting life-changing research that solves the problems of today. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
Hey, welcome to the Palmcast with Stephen Willis. We're going to start in a few minutes, but I want to tell you to hit up our social sites, retweet, share, comment, like, do all of that stuff. It can only help us out and it'll make the show even better. But we're getting ready to give you a lot of good Ole Miss information, and I just thought I would tell you that because the Palmcast is starting. Well, it's starting right now. Wait, no, that's a little early. It is starting right about now. Hey, good morning. Happy Egg Bowl Eve. Welcome to the Palmcast Farewell Tour. Again, December 3rd is the last show of the Palmcast, and then it will become the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Sorry about that. And should be a lot of fun. Before we get started, I do want to tell you about Travel and Cruise World. Got to hit them up to the end of the month and do this. That's Travel and Cruise World, 1-800-330-7461. Again, that is 1-800-330-7461. Basically what I was trying to do, we're 20 months into this at this point. Everybody needs a vacation. Wouldn't it be great if you had a resource on the ground in Central Florida? You want to go to Disney, you want to go to Tampa, you want to hit all the attractions down here. Wouldn't it be nice to have a resource on the ground that can tell you exactly what's going on at every location, so your vacation is as good as it possibly can be? So that's Travel and Cruise World, 1-800-330-7461. See Central Florida like a local. Also down below is our podcast. You can search it at y'allsconferencenetwork.com. It's going through all the RSS updates. Currently, it's Y'all's Conference Network. You can search that, leave a 5-star review. You can say whatever you want to, just leave a 5-star review. But that is going to replace the Positively Ole Miss feed eventually once the RSS feed works through. If you're already a subscriber, I believe you will stay being a subscriber. So what's going to happen is shows that are on Positively Ole Miss is going to become the Y'all's Conference Network channel. So everything except for the Ole Miss related single show that's going to become the Locked On podcast will be there. So SEC After Dark, Beast of the East, Best of the West, Biscuits and SEC preview, Talking Ball with Bill Flowers, all that stuff is going to remain on this channel, plus some others type stuff. We might get some DGD podcast or Believe in Georgia Dogs content. So it's going to become an SEC channel. There's still going to be some Ole Miss stuff, and those same stuff's going to be there. There's just going to be more stuff. So when we tell you to turn on the notifications, do it, because it will definitely provide you with an avenue to watch as we transform, as we grow. Basically, we started this thing out. Oh, yeah, Tide Talk podcast. Archie is barking. He's going to be a bad dog. So, yeah, Stacy is on board. He's going to be on board after the new year. They're going to do stuff now. Jake Thomas already does do stuff with us. But we're going to get Stacy on the air some as well. We're going to think of different ways we can do shows in the future involving those guys. But that's just what we're setting up at the beginning of this. We have DMs. Right now, my DMs are just cram-packed with people that are independent podcasters that want to join the Y'all's Conference network. And that is really cool. So we're just going to provide an avenue to do that, and then we're going to build a big pool, and then we're going to sell ads off of it. And everybody is going to be able to sell ads on other shows that are in the network. It's going to be really cool. Hello, I can't see your full name, but it's Nasty. I got Natig is as far as I can see on that. Hello, welcome to the show. Egg Bowl Eve. We're going to talk today about how Ole Miss can win this game. So we're going to do a little bit of position by position. We're going to talk about the standard turnovers. Nasty Natty Gaming. Yes, thank you. Welcome. welcome to the show. I hope you're enjoying it. And Robert Reynolds says, hello. Hello, Robert. Everybody's coming in. So we're doing a lot of stuff on the podcast. We're going to have the chats. We're going to have the live streams and everything that is going to be a part about this network. But this network is essentially a financial network. We are competition agnostic. We are not interested in what content you want to put out. We're not interested in that. We're interested in increasing the number of pool that you can sell ads on. That's what all of this is about. That is what this is about. It's about increasing that content pool, a number of people. We have a couple of white whales that we're shooting for, but we're also trying to get independent contractors that are not beholden to a network of some kind and gives them the freedom to do this thing. So, because freedom in this stuff is pretty interesting. We echo our shows across networks. So you might be the Tide Talk podcast or the DGD podcast, but you might have Ole Miss content coming off on your YouTube channel. And we do that all over the place. So it's a pretty cool thing. And, when this show dies on December 3rd and we become the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, that one show will go off of the channel. There'll be new like ways to watch it and consume it and whatever's going on. But that one will go away. The rest of the Y'all's Conference Network will be rebuilt. It'll be retooled with a lot of the same shows that are already there with other SEC schools. It'll be a really cool channel. My goal, now goals are lofty. Goals are really, if you can set a goal that can be easily attained, you didn't set a goal. You just set a to-do list. My goal is to honestly compete with the SEC network, but I want to do so with content that is really locally sourced by fans. I don't want the very antiseptic stuff that you see that the media pushes out and everything's going on whenever they're scared to do something. I'm more interested in I'm opinions and what's going on. I don't want anything rambunctious. I'd love to keep everything G-rated, but I'm interested in the real. I'm not interested in like just going through the motions, and that's what this network will be about. As you've seen, basically, if you blanket, just don't believe anything you hear from the media over the next 3 weeks. If you blanket, just don't believe it. You're going to be right 85% of the time, and it's going to increase your credibility. You have no information. Nothing's going wrong. You just decided to be against their opinions, all of them, for the next 3 weeks. And what does that tell you about the media? And in doing so, those guys are in charge of everything. They handle the narratives. They control the anger level of your fan base. Your coaches might be let go because of something they say. They announce the way it's set up. It's just a horrible, horrible system because everything is so money driven. Everything is money driven. You want content, their take is going to be whatever makes them the most money, whatever is going to keep their advertisers happy. And that's how that goes. And because of that, they don't know what's going on necessarily in college football. They don't know what's going on around the nation. That's the reason they anoint blue bloods. They anoint schools that they think, okay, these guys will always be good, so it doesn't matter who they hire or what's going on. And that just doesn't work. If that was true, Texas and Nebraska would not be a thing. Tennessee's been 20 years dead. 20 years dead, and is just now coming back. So we want to provide we want to provide an avenue to allow fans to consume real content, the real things that are impacting real people of their day-to-day lives and everything's going on with their sports team. That's what we want to do at the Y'all's Conference Network. We're not interested in the antiseptic thing that's going to make an advertiser happy and what's going on. We're going to get around that by everybody is going to be able to sell on every show. If the DGD podcast sells an ad for SEC After Dark or whatever's going on, the Tide Talk podcast, that goes in there and they get a share. So do the host of that show. So that's what I want to do. Takes money out of the equation. Takes money out of the equation. Anyway, let's talk about it's Egg Bowl Eve. Oh, by the way, tomorrow we're going to do a podcast as well as part of the podcast farewell tour before the Ole Miss State game, the Egg Bowl. That'll be at 11 o'clock in the morning. You can save that, but if you're driving to the game, it'll be right there uploaded so you can listen to it that day. So, Ole Miss and State plays tomorrow night. So I started thinking about it, and it's like, let's kind of do position groups. And if you look at running backs, that's obviously an Ole Miss thing as far as running the ball. Now, State's backs catch the ball well. They're the number 2 and number 3 receiver on their team. Will Rogers throws the ball really well, but he's thrown the ball like 200 more attempts than Matt Corral, and he only has like 1,000 more yards. So his yards per attempt is probably pretty small. And he does throw the ball behind the line of scrimmage quite a bit. But he's really good at whenever you decide it's time to bring pressure, he's really good at recognizing that and knowing where to go with the football. He's starting to really get comfortable in this offense. Will Rogers is a good quarterback. Not the strongest arm in the world, but he's a good air raid quarterback. I do not think he's as good as Matt Corral. I do think Matt Corral's legs are going to be a major component of this game. He looked better against Vanderbilt, and all the players started coming back, so they're all going to look a little bit better. They're going to give their all because, honestly, they're going to have 5 weeks to get better after this is over, so you might as well go out and kind of lay it all on the line. And I think in the offensive backfield, the advantage goes to Ole Miss. Now, good players for State for what they do because, we talk about systems all the time on this show. Systems all the time. And because of that, you have a situation where, Mississippi State throws the ball to their backs. They don't necessarily run. They do that little toss sweep thing, but it's technically a forward toss, so it's viewed as a pass. It's kind of stat padding, but whatever. I get it. And they have a couple of like a 300-yard rusher, decent little team. But in the backfield, I would give Ole Miss the advantage. On the offensive line, honestly, I would give Ole Miss the advantage as well. Now, the wide receivers, I would give the advantage to Mississippi State just because the Ole Miss wide receivers are not 100%. When everybody was healthy, if everybody was healthy right now, Mississippi State would not get a position win on the offensive side of the football. I mean, it's the sad truth. That isn't an Ole Miss State thing or anything going on. They just wouldn't. But since the Ole Miss receiving core is banged up, they probably have a little bit better receiving core. Wally and Austin Williams and Mekhi Polk and Malik Heath. I mean, good players. I think Mekhi Polk has like 88 catches or something this season. He's been the target downfield for Will Rogers. And then 2 and 3 are the 2 running backs. Now, if you look at the defensive side of the ball, I give the defensive line, I probably give props. Mississippi, that's a Mississippi State field. Mississippi State's defense is a havoc defense. That's the first thing to understand. Ole Miss is not. I think Ole Miss wants to be where they flip a switch and they are a havoc defense or they are a drop 8 defense. They're like 2 extremes. But they are not a havoc defense at the moment, even though they have so many tackles for losses and sacks and turnovers and stuff like that. That's more, I think, a situation of other teams not knowing and not recognizing what they're doing. That's going to be a big problem. If Will Rogers can beat in on what Ole Miss is doing, that is going to be a big problem. But I'd give this Mississippi State the defensive line edge. At linebacker, I've got to go with Ole Miss at the linebacker position. Chance Campbell and Mark Robinson have done a fantastic job. they play it a little bit differently. I mean, watch the linebackers as the game moves on, and look at what they do. If Will Rogers like drifts out to the right or left, here comes a linebacker. The rush 3 automatically becomes a rush 4. And, my opinion looking at that is, you should throw the ball where it's vacated. But there is a rule that I think DJ Durkin and John Haycock and Barry Odom and all those are using. And that is, do not throw back over the middle of the field. And the middle of the field is the one this part is being vacated for this rush. Now, I'll be interested to see the first team that actually does it. I really do. But I think if you were to just sit down a running back or a tight end, run a Texas route, and just playing that, you can create a lot of space in the offensive side of the ball. But the fact of the matter is, you have to commit to it. I mean, it just is what it is. And the defensive backfield, I think I would give Ole Miss the advantage there. Although State is, Emmanuel Forbes is a good player. Kicking game is going to be interesting because State's, having trouble kicking the ball, and Ole Miss's, I guess, kicker is out with PEDs. I mean, how do you do that before the Egg Bowl? So kicking could be a problem for Ole Miss in this game. Honestly, if that's the case, I'm going to give the edge to field goal kicking to Mississippi State, as bad as they've been. Punting game, I'm going to give the edge to Ole Miss. Mac Brown's a terrific punter. And in the return game, I mean, it's Tulu Griffin versus Jerry and Ely. I mean, that's pretty much a wash. Punt return game is Dontario Drummond. He's going to catch the ball. And the same thing's going to happen with Austin Williams in the punt return game on the other side. So special teams is kind of a wash. So if you look at that situation, it's one side of the ball, one position on both sides of the ball that Mississippi State wins, and the special teams are a wash. If you look at that, if Ole Miss plays clean, they should win the game. It's just honestly true. If Matt Corral has a disaster game, that's another story entirely. But if Ole Miss plays clean, they should win the game. I expect this to be a game that Snoop Connor could really show up in, especially late. If the State defense gets a little bit tired, I do expect this to be a game that Snoop Connor kind of shows up. And with the weather being what it is now Egg Bowl Eve. Let me bring this up real quick. I know this is going to be great pod, but it is what it is. But at this point, we should be able to get hour by hour. Let's see. Let's see. Hourly. All right. It's the game starts at 6:30. It is at least a 60% chance of rain with wind about 10 miles an hour. It is supposed to be raining at the beginning of the game, showers at 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock, with the temperature dropping fairly rapidly. This is the front coming through. At kickoff, the game should be at about 54 degrees, and it'll drop from there. This is a game that could be quite miserable. If you we talked to Bill Flowers with the Talking Ball, you will hear that tonight as part of the Egg Bowl preview. He was a receiver on that 2003 Egg Bowl that was played down in Starkville. That was just a rainstorm. It was sloppy. It was miserable. Ole Miss ended up winning that game 31-0. But he talked about that game as being something all the players just wanted to get out of there. It was cold. It was wet. It was nasty. This game has a chance to be something similar to that because the rain is supposed to start. It's like a 90% chance of rain at 1 o'clock. And as the day moves on, it gets less and less, but there's rain all the way up until 6 o'clock. Then the chance of rain starts to go down a little bit as it goes. And by 10, by the time the game ends, it should be clear, honestly. But it's one of those things, it is what it is. It's not exactly as cold as they were predicting it. That is good news for both the Ole Miss and the Mississippi State offenses. But it's going to be one of those kind of chilly Thanksgiving Mississippi nights. The Egg Bowl, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. I mean, there's been some doozies like the stand. Everybody remembers the '92 game with the stand with I think it was 12 plays inside the 5 or something like that. And the reality of that is it was like 15 degrees outside. It was basically an ice storm on the field. It was very, very cold that day. But this game has the potential to, just get wet. Just be terrible. And State is really favored at the moment. Let's see what State is at the moment, Stacy. Lines are courtesy of betonline.ag. It's a 1.5 point game, 1 point game. Depending on the sports book that you go through, it's between 1 and 1.5. There's nobody at 2. It's kind of gone down a little bit, so that will be interesting. That's the Vegas Insider. Let's go to BetOnline. And if you look at that, you'll be able to. This is some fantastic pod. Yeah, this is just great. You can't tell the show's going away, can you? Let's see. Ole Miss and Mississippi State 1.5 on betonline.ag. So we do want to thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. Our channel is very, very happy that you do, but it's going to be really great. Really, really great the direction we're going on. So looking at one thing I want to talk before I get out of here, I'm probably going to give you a couple minutes back. It's a holiday weekend. Everybody looks to have fun. But with NIL and the Alston ruling, and like Ole Miss cut a check for like $2,700 to athletes last week. It's like you're an athlete, you get a check. And NIL is out there. Everybody, you saw the Will Rogers versus Jerry and Ely Subway ads that they were running with. So this is my point. Opt-outs need to stop. And everybody's going to say, "Oh, Steve, you don't care about the player?" I care about the player to a certain point. But when it comes to them getting paid, and they are actually getting paid to get money. Now, if they're a first-round pick, number 1 overall, it's a lot of money left to be paid. But now this is essentially like a job. And going to a bowl game, all the records count. It's not an exhibition. No more than the Egg Bowl is right now and the week before Vanderbilt was. It's not an exhibition. All of these records count. So it is essentially like, if you opt out of it, not showing up for work. You're getting paid to do it. Everything's going on. You're not showing up to work. Now, if you want to put your 2 weeks notice in and leave, that's fine. But the NIL should go away as well. And you should probably have to pay back your Alston money if you opt out during the course of the semester, something like that. See, Stacy Blackwood says Alabama's working on a deal for their athletes to, if a scholarship athlete remains academically eligible annually, they'll receive an additional $8 or $9K. Yes, Ole Miss started that deal actually last week. The first checks went out to athletes, and the way they did it is they're going to split it up between fall and spring semesters, and that money's just going to go out to them. And by the way, they're funding these, Ole Miss is, through gates at the game. So through attendance at the game. That tells you how much TV money has overtaken what was going on. Used to, gates were everything. and that was sacred money that could not be messed with. Your season up or down depended on your attendance during the game. That's the reason even today, when a coach is not doing well, if you watch the LSU Texas A&M game, there's 50,000 people in a 100,000 seat stadium because they think that matters. But this is a situation where a school is just using that money as extra money. That's the view. The TV money has become the primary source because you can count on that money. It's always a nice, well-rounded number every year. And the volatility that are the gates will be less and less viewed because, honestly, they're just very volatile. But Ole Miss is paying that money from gates through attendance. Attendance is mattering less and less and less. Coaches want it. Everybody's going to talk about excuses for how they are and where they're going to go. Attendance means less and less. When Ole Miss does its renovation, Ole Miss should figure out a way to cut that attendance down to 40,000. Make it loud, build it straight up, but they should do 40, 45,000. The days of trying to just get massive numbers aren't there. You make it architecturally loud and you make it visually appealing, and that's about all you really ask for, because the money's being made on the TV side at this point. That's just something very honest, and the way this thing is going. TV is now the most important thing when it comes to college football. All of the Ole Miss games are on TV. Think about that. I grew up, let's see, my first game was the 1982 Egg Bowl. That was my first game. And I went through years, like a decade and a half, 2 decades of seeing Ole Miss on TV probably 5 or 6 times. And it was usually games against teams that were considered the Blue Bloods back in the day, to where Ole Miss was the massive underdog in there, and you know, let's just take our beating like a man. And then in the 90s, it started to switch, and with ESPN2, it started to switch. I'm up there, bud. And starting with the 2000s, it started to move forward, and everybody started to add cable networks because that was the thing that everybody thought was important. And then all this streaming happened. Once this streaming happened, and the Ole Miss Austin Peay game was on SEC Plus, that was intentional. Eventually, SEC Network Plus is going to go away, and SEC Plus is going to be the extra games. So games against Austin Peay, things like that, is going to only show up on ESPN Plus, and it's going to cost you a little bit more money each month. Get ready for that. So today we went over basically what's going on with y'all's conference network and what our channels and feeds are going to do. We also talked a little bit about position groups, about the Egg Bowl, and let you know that we're going to be streaming live tomorrow at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. a.m. Central, as a preview for the Egg Bowl. And also we mentioned NIL and the Alston ruling. I think it's Alston ruling. Alston ruling? One of those things. And how that affects how you are perceived if you opt out. It used to be a college player can opt out because they don't get anything. They're doing this for free. Well, that's changed. And the mindset of the fan base is going to change over the next 5 years. Between the transfer portal and everything come out, if you want to be viewed as a mercenary, that's fine. Be a mercenary. Opt out. Do whatever you need to do. If you want a legacy at the school you are at, and you want the fan base to love you, it is going to require you play that game. Legacy is worth risking millions of dollars if you want that legacy. Now, the odds of you getting really severely hurt, extremely small, especially after playing 12 games. It is what it is. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in today. If you are interested in being a part of the Y'all's Conference Network, hit me a DM. That's YCN_SEC on Twitter. Hit me a DM. We'll let you know what's going on. We are content agnostic. We are competition agnostic. So if you are already part of a content network, we can still take you. The whole goal is to expand the pool that we can sell ads on and hang out with some really cool people. That's the idea. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And let's see. Have a great Thanksgiving. We're going to talk to you tomorrow. And of course, hotty toddy.